We just want to thank you for taking the time out to do this interview with us.
Thank you.
And we're honored. Good to talk with y'all for a minute. I'm honored.
Eric, you have a single titled Lessons. Can you tell us a little about this new single?
So Lessons was a song that I actually wrote last year, the morning of my anniversary. I don't know if it was like, it wasn't an anniversary gift or nothing. It was just happened to be working like the night bleeding into my anniversary. But I think to some degree, it kind of put me in a certain spirit. I wrote a different song than I usually would write that day. And I think it was just very reflective of, you know, everything that went well and didn't go well had to happen in order for me to be here with you right now, for order to have that. And it was special, man. I finished it around 4:00 in the morning, and I just kind of saved it, but I posted it on Instagram before I went to bed. Just kind of what I started doing kind of just during the pandemic, you know, just to help people out, something to listen to. And I woke up to like, you know, 2,000 comments or something crazy. It was pretty crazy. So I was like, whoa, okay. And people just were connecting to it. So I think it's just one of those special songs, you know. I think it's a song very honest from any of us can look back. You know, I'm 47 now, looking back at, clearly have had relationships beforehand and clearly had mistakes and other things that may have happened throughout my life. But all of that had to happen in order for me to have my kids I have today, in order for me to have my wife I have today, for us to be in this very moment, for us to be talking in this interview. If one thing changed, there's a good chance that we wouldn't be talking this very moment. We might talk another time, but it wouldn't be this moment, you know? So just being appreciative of where I'm at. And I think it's a song that people can really relate to, you know, in some form or fashion, whether they can look at it and say, wow, you know, I can relate to that, or man, that's the goal I'm trying to get to, you know? And it's cool because I think throughout my years, I've written some songs that, you know, it's catchy, everybody can sing along. And then you have certain songs when it finishes playing, everybody's just like, And not because it's bad, but just more like it really makes you think or makes you question. And this song is one of those.
Oh, okay. Nice. Do you feel like that's fate? What you just mentioned, you're a spiritual individual, or you just kind of yes, okay.
I mean, I'm very, you know, even the first line. Oh, I'm sorry, what are you saying?
No, go ahead.
Oh, this line, you know, is God has a funny way of showing you lessons. And so yes, I am very spiritual. And what's crazy is that, to me, songwriting really has strengthened my belief in God, because it's really, to me, it's my proof that God exists. You know, many times you hear people say, "Oh, God told me this and God told me that," but I've sat down with a pad and a pen and had lines show up on paper that I didn't understand before, numerous times, and only to later, some point in life, find out, oh, that's what that meant. You know what I mean? That you actually have something in your body, in your spirit, that you can write down, that you technically can't figure out what it means.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's meant for me, sometimes it's meant for somebody else. But, you know, to me, that if you trust into the creative process, I told somebody just earlier today, I said, I about 7 years ago, I did a concert. I just had this conversation this morning. And in the concert, I started talking about cancer. I don't know why. I just started talking about cancer. And lo and behold, a good friend of mine was in the crowd and she was going through chemo and I didn't know. And she messaged me this morning saying, you know, it's crazy that night. She said, this picture was from that show. And you talked about the struggles and, you know, praying for people and anyone who died dealing with cancer, this, that, and had no idea that the young lady I went to college with was in the crowd going through that process. And I said, you know, I've learned through my years to trust the pull. You know, when I don't know why something might happen or something might, you're about to say something or whatever. For me, creative wise, I just go with the flow. I trust the pull when something's pulling me in that direction. And you find those things. Is it coincidence? Is it whatever? No matter what, I just realized that if I hear a song, I try to write it. If I hear a song, I try to record it. that night I recorded something and it, you know, and it came out really, really nice. And then later on you find out the purpose. You find out that it might help somebody down the long term. It might help me as well. So that's where we're at now.
Oh, okay. Now, Eric, does all of your music come to you in a profound manner? I know some people may play a track and then, you know, come up with a melody or and then they'll write to it. What is that process like for you?
It's all across the board. I'm constantly writing all the time. Not just writing. I mean, I'm constantly writing letters. Like, as you see, I mean, everything I try to get out of my brain onto papers. If you see it like this, there's sayings and phrases just written all throughout the house. So I'm constantly writing to stay in shape. What I would tell you is that in the studio, not necessarily like a Jay-Z or a Biggie, but I don't really, probably for the last 10 years, I haven't really written lyrics down. For me, it's more about trying to define who I am in the song, what I'm trying to get about the song, and just be that. And then if I'm being that, the more defined that person is, the more clear the direction or what to say. What does it say? Whether I'm writing a song about a girl that just went through a divorce, or you know, a teenager who just walked in the club and ran into their soulmate, whatever the subject matter is about, to me it's about becoming it. And then, because to me to stop the creative process to write something down breaks character for me. But I'll tell you, I hear songs in the shower, I hear songs in the car, I hear songs, you know, sitting at the table with the family. So it's, you know, for me, it's about knowing when a moment goes and capitalizing it, like hitting record right then and there, you know. And that's really the process. I mean, I've probably, you know, written thousands and thousands of songs, but it still feels new to me every time. It's like I love combining words, I love combining notes. So each time is like the first time.
Okay. I know some people are labeled the king of rap, the king of R&B. You're labeled the king of indie soul R&B. So do you live up to that label?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I didn't give myself that title. I wonder if Michael Jackson gave himself the title of King of Pop. Nevertheless, I don't shy away from it. If that's the title, I wear it. I have no problem with it. I mean, this is my 20th year of releasing independent music. We released 16 albums, and we've been nominated for Grammys and won Soul Train Awards and BET Awards, and been able to make a living and take care of my family with literally creating what's in my mind without compromise. Doesn't mean that we shortchange on business or anything of that nature, but we've been able to employ a large amount of people, give people a shot in this industry, work with well-known people as well as up-and-coming people. And so I think for that way, if wearing a title kind of helps that lost artist who maybe like I was when I was 21 or 22 or 27, you know, I'm down for it, you know. The overall goal, I went through record deals that didn't work out, and I was really on the cusp of not succeeding in this business. And in the blessing of that chaos, I found out what I really wanted. I was able to ask myself, like, what is success? And so then at that point I started chasing it. And I can look back now and feel very grateful that there's a lot of songs that I wrote and had success with that I feel like a major label wouldn't have allowed me to do, you know. So I'm honored to wear that title. You know, I mean, I don't know if it's I don't know if it goes up there with like King of Pop and stuff like that, but you know, I'm cool with
it. So is it a reason that you chose to stay independent as opposed to seeking out a major deal, or what's your experience or thought on that situation? Like, because you've been very successful independent. Is it a reason you chose that?
That's a great question. I mean, well, I got signed to Warner Brothers when I was 19, and then I went to that deal I had a song called The Moon, and that did well, but then that deal kind of washed up. And I think at 21, I went to Island Records, and that was very short lived. So I had my fair share of failed major record deals. um, and what I would tell you at the time of the late 90s, mid late 90s, when you had a record deal and it didn't work out, that was usually it. At that point, you're back cutting hair or doing construction or something. You don't usually find people who kind of label hop and then it pops off. So, I, being a songwriter in the industry, I knew how that worked. Um, when I started independent, I can't honestly tell you that I had a real game plan. I think I just had too much music and I just wasn't willing to not share it or not be heard. So I was willing to just give away for free, really, at the end of the day. And the fans kind of challenged me to take it serious. You know, this is my 20th year, but we've really been in business for like 19 because the first year was a wash. you know, After that, they were like, yo, take it serious, like really start learning what you need to do as a businessman in this business. So what I will tell you is that I remember when Lettucey was independent, Raheem, Guapale, Dwelle. Kim. I remember Kim before Kim got signed. I remember John Legend when he was John Stevenson in New York. All these artists who were independent artists before they were signed. The difference is once you would sell a certain amount of records independently, the majors would come in and sign you. I'd already been signed before. So it's two things. One, when I got to that part, it was kind of like, well, let's just kind of keep going and see what happens this way. I know how that works out. What happens if we work out this way? What happens if we control radio? What happens if we control distribution and our own touring and everything? And the other part was I was a pretty successful songwriter at the time. So all the A&Rs and all the presidents knew me as Eric Roberson, the songwriter, because that's how I introduced myself to them. So a lot of them were like, that's Eric. He just having fun. He don't want a record deal. And I probably really didn't, to be honest with you. So there was a little bit of passing on some, and some didn't work out. I talk about it now, but I was very close to signing with Pharrell at one point. And that deal didn't work out. I couldn't really tell you why it didn't work out, but we were close. We were close to like really doing it. And there were a couple other situations where it was for the right situation, I would have went to the major. I would never tell somebody don't do a major deal. What I would tell you is don't wait for one. Like if you feel you're ready and you feel like you have the talent, you feel like you can make an impact, man, shoot your shot, man. Like don't sit around and wait for anybody, for anything. Because life is too short. Opportunities are too short. So that's the main reason why I kind of stayed independent.
Oh, okay. Interesting. And you mentioned you have 20 years in the game and you have 13 albums right now. And I know you have an album coming out towards the end of the year, if I'm
Yeah.
correct. Did you ever see yourself accomplishment, all these projects and, getting to this point in your career?
I mean, I don't know. It's a good point. What I would tell you is that I worked so hard on survival that I had to one day take a step back and realize I don't have to fight anymore. Like I'm kind of respectfully say I'm kind of in the thriving part of my career now. Still want to show that I still could do it. I still have a passion for it and everything. But I remember the days, leaving meetings in New York, getting on a train, wondering if this was going to work for me. A meeting not working out, A&R passing on a deal, or just, or A&R really being brutal about the songs that you brought into the meeting. At that time, I was, as a songwriter, we would probably go to New York probably every 2 weeks with the songs we did that week and everything to shop to the artists and everything. Sometimes that could be really brutal and you could leave those meetings really dejected. And there was with that time there was some years where you made a ton of money and the following year was like completely quiet. Then you have a big month and then you have so there's a lot of that like, man, is this gonna work? At that point I don't know what I was wishing for. I just wanted to grow old doing music, period. I was like, man, I want to be 95 years old in the studio cutting, and trying to figure out a line or being on stage. That was it. I didn't know how many albums. I didn't know like Grammys or anything. I couldn't even think on that level. I just knew that I love the feeling of creating, and I don't want anything to get in the way of that. So what do I need to do to get to that? So looking back now, it's great, but to get to that point, I mean, I was, just trying to survive at one point, and I mean, I think at some point, you don't even realize it. At some point, the tour schedules are taking off, and the albums are coming together, and we're going to the Grammys and walking red carpets, and you still in survival mode. You still like, and I had to kind of stop and reassess and go like, nah, people actually kind of want to listen. Like, they want to listen, and it kind of like take a minute to breathe, take a minute. And I think, growing older and now having kids where I can't be in the studio all day, all night like I used to be. Even our tour schedule, we changed up and everything. Just for family wise, it doesn't make sense to go on the road for 6-7 months at a time now. So it allowed me to kind of sit back. I teach now. I'm a professor at Berklee College of Music, and I teach songwriting, and it's like that's a joy to kind of, I love it. It's like one of my teaching is one of my passions. But every once in a while, you have a student come in and they go like, "Yeah, I started listening to your records in first grade," or "My mom's a big fan of you, and she used to play your music when I was in her belly." I'm like, what? How did we get here? You know what I mean? So it's a blessing, man. I don't know what I was dreaming of, nor what I was actually praying for at the time. But I will tell you that I think eventually what I started praying for, I really knew what I wanted. So I prayed for that and realized there was some hard work to get there. So we worked hard and got there, and that's where we are.
That's great. That's great.
Yep. So your music is filled with so much love, compassion, inspiration, and so forth. What are some of the life lessons that Eric Roberson lived by?
Oh, a lot of his stuff. So I got my songwriting ability from my grandfather, and he was a preacher. He wasn't a songwriter, but he always. I would sit with him and I would see him go, and that I know what that feeling was. That was that line that hit him, and he would always say stuff real positive and amazing. But one of the lessons is like, always first thing is to do first thing, like first things first, like take care of the first thing first, and find time to be small, no matter how big you are, the person taking the tickets, the usher, or the person who was invited by their friend to come. Every piece has to come together for that big event to happen. You're technically no bigger than anyone else in that moment. You're just doing your part. And that was a big lesson. I think that's kept me, pretty humble in seeing the bigger picture and understand like it's not necessarily a competition. Everybody's just doing their part. Whether somebody has a bigger year than me or I have a bigger year than them, it's like we're just doing our part for the betterment. And then another lesson is just completion. To me, completion is an attitude. It's the most important word. So I don't like having unfinished songs. I don't like having unfinished conversations or thoughts. Like, to me, it's about completing it. And there's really never a finish line in completing, right? It's almost kind of, we do this interview, then you publish the interview, then the interview inspires people, and then that people may share it or come back to me, and then that inspires. And it's but completion's attitude of like never stopping, like never just letting something go. Like, all right, I started that, and all right, I'll just leave it be. No, it's like finding its purpose. To me is very important. So one of the things I really teach my students is like really understanding that word, like completion, understand the business, understand taxes, understand, everything you need to do for you to flourish in whatever avenue you want to go in. But there's a million. I mean, like I said, there's some on the wall. That's my grandpa. No matter what you do the first things first. That's a better way of saying it, right? So, You know, trust in the process. Like that's something I do. And then with kids here, I'm sure, I don't know if you guys have kids, but like with the craziness of this pandemic, one thing for me is a quick phrase. It says, "Enjoy the minute." It's been a really helpful lesson and statement for me, because you get busy and craziness,
Mhm.
and I have either my 5-year-old or my 8-year-old or my 10, somebody's coming in, and I realize that the minute we're having right now, it would never come back again. This minute is just this minute. So every time I hear that phrase, or every time I see it written on a piece of paper or whatever, it reminds me that to really take in these 60 seconds, like really take in the specialness of it. So it helps me kind of just my perception of seeing things for what it is. And I might have to take a break from all this craziness at work to get on the floor and play with the kids for a minute, or go for a walk, or just whatever, because everything ain't really that serious. All these other timelines are not really that serious. So I think the biggest lesson I've been doing during the pandemic, because there's no privacy, it's crazy, it's loud, is just to enjoy the minute, and then after that minute, try to enjoy the next one.
Wow, Eric, you deep, you deep.
Yeah,
That's
man.
real. That's real, though. Yeah,
Yeah, I be trying to practice it.
yeah, you doing it. You doing it. And what advice or inspiration or words of encouragement will you share with upcoming or aspiring artists who are looking to have the tenure that you have?
Hold on to the part that you love about this in whatever you're doing. But as I say, if it's music, hold on to the part that you love. Like, don't forget that part. Because anything that you try to do, it can be challenging. Even your closest friends may play devil's advocate at the wrong time and talk you clean out of your steps and your goal. But I've had vocal cord surgery, because I had a blood hemorrhage on my vocal cords, and my career was really at jeopardy, and I had to, train not just how to sing again, but how to talk again. And that was a really tough period. And to get through it, I had to lean on my faith, but I had to also hold on to what I love. I love to sing. I love to combine words, and I love to talk to my family and friends. So that's not an option. I got to get better. I got to do everything that the doctors told me I had to do. I was down to do it, like plus one. So whatever challenges that may run in front of you, the one thing I would tell them is to hold on to the part that you like. You started this because you loved it, and if you didn't, if you started it because your parents put you in this as something to do, piano lessons or whatever, you deserve the right to ask yourself if you love it. And if you don't love it, find what you love, and then wholeheartedly hold on to that. You know, because I think that's the real lesson. That's the thing I would really tell everybody if you're really going into this. Like, really find out, because I mean, if we're just keeping 100, there's artists who are multimillionaires, won Grammys, and toured the world, and are not in love with what they're doing. They're sitting at home miserable right now, like, or in a dressing room going, "Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for." All right, I get out here and sing these songs again. Like, really? Like,
Mm.
because somehow certain things worked out, but just because it worked out doesn't mean that you're happy. Doesn't mean that you're in love with it. So I think we all need to kind of take a minute and reassess where we are and what we want. And then after that, man, don't let nobody get in the way of that. Chase it with everything you got.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. And before we conclude the interview, Eric, would you like to add anything in closing regarding your new single? Any inspiration you'd like to share? Anything before we end the interview that we haven't discussed?
Man, just that I appreciate the love. I appreciate the love that I received with this song already. I think one reason why I believe in the song so much is because so many people showed me that they believed in it. For me, it was a great song. I loved it, but the reaction that I received, that's the part that makes things art. How you respond to it is what makes it art. outside of that, it's just notes. It's just some words on a piece of paper. But when you put a painting on a wall, how somebody responds to it, when somebody reads a poem and starts to cry or shares it with somebody else, that's really what makes it art, man. So I just thank everybody for making it art, and continue to share it, and hopefully they get more out of it than I got, because I got a lot out of it already, and hopefully they can do the same.
Wow, Eric, you like that big brother or that mentor I would have loved to have when I was a kid, for real.
Oh,
You just so
I
much
appreciate it.
wisdom, knowledge, spirituality. I really feel it.
Man, I try. I mean, I guess the grades, I guess it comes with the grades, but yeah, I mean, but it's true, man. I practice. I mean, I'm not just saying it 'cause it sounds good. It's stuff that I really practice. I really, really work hard to try to keep the right perception about certain things. And that's like, even I've been teaching for 2 years now, and somebody I mentored who was a professor there, when a job opened up, they were like, you gotta bring Eric Roberson here. You gotta bring him here. And he's like, because you just had to bring him here. So I wasn't looking for the job, and then like that, he called me out of the blue. Mind you, I live in Jersey. The school's in Boston. So before the pandemic, I was flying there once a week, to just teach for a day. But I think it's because of that. It's like, man, I took the job because I'm looking for that kid that I was when I was that age, and was uncertain and just could use. And guess what? I had angels throughout all this, man. I can name off several people, man, that right in that moment where I was like, this is not going to work, just that little bit of encouragement goes a long way. Goes a long way. Or just somebody can help you change your perspective. So yeah, man, I'm always trying to do that the best way I possibly can. I'm doing it with myself. I'm my number one guinea pig out of all of it. So yeah, it's amazing. Now it's amazing how wrinkled this shirt is. I thought I was styling today until I saw it. It's all good, man.
Yeah,
that's all good. I ain't swagged out like y'all are right now, but I'll do it.
All right,
Eric. Well, cool. No doubt. Y'all need else, man? Hit me up.
Okay, Michelle. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
No doubt. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Hold your head up high to the sky, so high as the day.